Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Isaiah, the 57th chapter, which covers both the righteous and the wicked. But here the Lord is speaking out against wicked Israelites, for having gone in the way of these idols, committing spiritual adultery, and neglecting the true power of Israel. Okay, which is something that we see them doing even till this very day. So this is Isaiah 57:1. The righteous perisheth, and no man layeth it to heart. So there are times when a righteous individual would be taken back to the spirit world, right? They would die. But most people don't consider the real meaning behind why the Lord is doing that. That's what it means by laying it to heart. Your heart meaning your mind. So you wonder or think about it. And merciful men are taken away, right? Once again, merciful men, righteous men under the same umbrella, and taken away meaning that they die. None considering that the righteous is taken away from the evil to come. So there are times when the Lord will, before bringing evil, he might, take a righteous spirit back to the spirit world, so they wouldn't be on the earth to have to experience whatever tribulation or calamity it is that the Lord is, bringing. Verse 2, he shall enter into peace. They shall rest in their beds, each one walking in his uprightness. And the word walking here goes also into a way of life, like your manner. And uprightness obviously is righteousness. Okay, so what it's saying is those that have walked or lived a righteous life, an upright lifestyle, they're gonna rest in peace. Verse 3. Now the focus shifts to the wicked Israelites, who the Lord is now addressing, saying, But draw near hither, ye sons of the sorcerers. Right now as for you, right, you wicked demons, right? Now the Lord is addressing the wicked of our people, right? As he says, sons of sorcerers, because they were going in that same way, all right, inheriting those same wicked practices. The seed of the adulterer and the whore, because there was a lot of both physical and spiritual adultery going on. All right, and so you just had a cycle of this wickedness just going on and on and on. That's why the Lord likened them onto a seed or a generation of adulterers and whores. Against whom do ye sport yourselves? And sporting yourself is like to mock. So the Lord is like, who do you think you're mocking? Right? Against whom make ye a wide mouth and draw out the tongue, which is a mocking face. Typically, you'll see like kids will do this, right? When they stick out their tongue and they'll put their fingers to grab the side of their face, and then they'll open their mouth and stick out their tongue and just make like funny faces at you in a mocking sense, right? So the Lord is saying, like, who the hell do you think you're mocking, making these these funny faces at? Are ye not children of transgression, a seed of falsehood? So all of you are your parents were wicked, you're wicked, you're walking in the same ways, your forefathers were doing the same things, and you're doing it too, right? A seed of falsehood, deceit, lies. Inflaming yourselves with idols under every green tree. Now, as the Lord describes the perversity and the intense zeal that Israel was going after these idols with, he likens it here to a woman that is committing adultery. So sometimes the terminology or the way that it's worded, it's like it's using the analogy or the example of a woman that's committing adultery to compare what Israel was doing by worshiping these idols. So when you look at the word inflamed, right, it goes into like passion or zeal, but also arousal. As the Lord is saying, like you get hot, and passionate for these idols under every green tree, right? The different oaks and groves where they would go, where they had their shrines, and they would worship these idols at, slaying the children in the valleys under the under the clefts of the rocks, which that's what they were doing, right? The different deities they served. I believe it might have been Molech or so, where one of the things they would do is like they would have the bronze statue heated up, and then they would place the baby on the hand, because then obviously the baby would burn, and then you would hear the screams and so on. But this was them sacrificing their children, and they thought that by giving up something special and dear to them, they could appease the wrath of these idols or yada yada. Okay, and then this is what the cliffs of the cliffs of a rock looks like, right? So there were some, mainly they were like it could be a cave, right? It could be really like maybe like an edge somewhere. This is just random picture, but sometimes you had different areas where they would build altars and shrines, and they would sacrifice over there, and the valleys. Verse 6, among the smooth stones of the stream is thy portion. And the smooth stones were are sometimes used as part of the materials for their idols that they would make. And so the Lord is saying, that's why he says here is thy portion, right? That's who that's where you've basically allotted yourself to, because this is in reference to their idols. Because remember, these idols are made of whether it's stone or wood or some material. They are thy lot. Even to them hast thou poured a drink offering. So they are the ones, these idols are where you associate yourself with, right? You no longer are considering me to be your God and you to be my people. Instead, you have chosen, right, your portion or your lot. You've chosen these idols. Even to them hast thou poured a drink offering, and thou hast offered a meat offering. Should I receive comfort in these things? Right? So am I supposed to be happy seeing this? Upon a lofty and high mountain hast thou set thy bed. So now going into like the visual of like a woman, when you set your bed, let's go into this word bed over here. But when you set your bed, it is here symbolizing basically like Israel as a woman preparing their bed, for these idols, which would be likened onto like another lover to commit adultery with them, right? And in reality, that would be them, preparing an altar or a shrine where they would worship this idol, which would be the equivalent of like a spiritual version of a woman committing adultery or preparing a bed to lay with another man that's not her husband. So when you go into that word, right, you have the act of lying down, couch, act of lying, and you also have here lying down for sexual contact, right? So the Lord is saying here, you're preparing yourself, you're making this bed up here on this high mountain. It wasn't a literal bed, it's part of the analogy. Even thither wentest thou up to offer a sacrifice. See, so you prepared a place up there and went there to offer a sacrifice to these idols. Behind the doors also and the posts hast thou set up thy remembrance. So they had certain places, high points, they set up altars, they set up shrines, and then even in their houses, their doors behind it, they had the remembrance were like things by which they would either honor or have like a memorial of these deities. So it could be like a trinket, it could be, paintings, it could be, mini idols, whatever it is. Right, but within their dwelling places, they had these things in remembrance of these idols. For thou hast discovered thyself to another other than me, right? And that word discovered, meaning they, like a woman uncovering herself, right? If a woman is going to commit adultery, she's going to be with the other man. Obviously, she's going to get naked and whatnot. So that discovered thyself, when you go into the word there, it goes into revealing yourself, right? Or uncovering yourself, right? So here to uncover, to remove, to uncover, to show oneself, right? To uncover nakedness. So the Lord is saying that's what you're doing. What you're doing is likened onto that. So you've shown your nakedness to somebody other than me, right? Other than your husband, and art gone up. Thou hast enlarged thy bed. So this is like a scene of a woman committing adultery, right? You've prepared the room, you've made the bed big, okay, and made thee a covenant with them, right? You committed yourself onto them. And when a woman, lays with a man, that's also likened onto her making a covenant with him, right? She's joining herself to him. Thou lovest their bed where thou sawest it. Okay, and that sawest it, that it is referring to their their stuff. Okay, I'm gonna pull this up in another translation, or their nakedness. Let me put it like that. All right, so it's saying here, you took off your clothes, you went up on that bed, you got it in with them, and you enjoyed it that way, right? Lusting, looking at them, like once again, like a woman committing adultery. She looking at another man, on the bed, having a good time. Meanwhile, she's cheating on her husband, right? And this is what it's like when they go up there and they are so fervently running up to these high places, these groves, with their offerings and so on. So pulling this up in NKJV is fine. We can even deal with the latter part here, right? You have uncovered yourself to those other than me, and have gone up to them. You have enlarged your bed and made a covenant with them. You have loved their bed where you saw their nudity. See? It says literally hand, a euphemism. NIV, same thing. You made a pact with those whose beds you love, and you looked with lust on their naked bodies. Okay, so that this is one here, CSB. You have set up your memorial behind the door and doorpost. For away from me you stripped, went up and made your bed wide, and you have made a bargain for yourself with them. You have loved their bed, you have gazed on their genitals, or their manhood. So I'm pretty sure you get the point here. A little explicit, but I mean, the point is being made. Verse 9, and thou wentest to the king with ointment, and didst increase thy perfumes, and didst send thy messengers far off, and didst debase thyself even unto hell. Right? And when you look this up in like NLT, for example, they have this translated as Molech, which I believe in the Hebrew, the word there is malak. We can just check that real quick. But here they're referring to the idol. Okay. It says, you have given olive oil to Molech, and with many gifts of perfume, you have traveled far, even into the world of the dead, to find new gods to love, like a woman sending messengers looking for lovers, as I mentioned, right? That didst send thy messengers far off, and didst debase. When you debase yourself, you lower yourself, right? And so by a woman committing adultery and becoming a whore, she's lowering herself. And here the Lord is like, you've gone so low, even to the point of like the grave, right? That's how low you've gone. Sometimes they'll make memes of like, how low how low somebody's willing to stoop, and they'll be like, well, I'm not the one to be the bigger man, right? And they'll just show like people actually going low, all the way to the ground. The Lord is saying, you've gone so low, you've gone all the way down into the ground, into hell. Here's the grave, right? So that's beneath the earth, or beneath the ground. And so looking into this word king here in the Hebrew, right, we have malak, but you can see it says here, the KJV translates this word, Strong's H4428, in the following manner. So 2,518 times the word malak is translated as king, 2 times it's translated as royal, once as Hamelech, another time as Malcolm, which is a deity, and another time as Molech. So going back to Isaiah 57. So, the Lord is making sure this imagery is pretty vivid, so you can get the message as to what it's like. Because as human beings, we don't, like, obviously we're not in the stead of the Most High, right? So we don't have people worshiping us and then them worshiping another, God, like how that feels to us. So that's why, like, the equivalent of likening onto a woman, which that's an experience that you will have. That's a part of a, a man's life. For example, you have a woman, right? And you, you develop this love and affection for her. So that pain or that experience of your woman committing adultery on you it's like one way in which you can feel even a glimpse of the equivalence of what you do when you commit idolatry and serve these other gods. Verse 10, thou art wearied in the greatness of thy way, right? The greatness being the intensity of your search, okay, or your wicked way of looking for idols or looking for lovers, okay. And here in this verse is basically saying that you are making a vain search, but Israel is so wicked, they've managed to convince themselves to keep on going. And at no point did they stop and say, this is pointless, let's turn back to the Lord. They just continued to basically convince themselves to just keep on going, and they got more and more wicked. So as it says, thou art wearied in the greatness of thy way, yet saidest thou not, there is no hope. See? So you're serving these idols, but it's not doing you any good. But at no point did you stop and say, maybe this ain't the way, let's just turn back to the Lord. Thou hast found the life of thine hand, which, translates to, like, that's the thought that they use to convince themselves, right? To say, no, we got to keep going. This is what we've been looking for, right? The life of thine hand. Therefore, thou was not grieved. See, so by psyching themselves out, thinking, no, let's keep, this is it. We're going to be good. They're sacrificing more babies. They, rather than being grieved and allowing their conscience to eat at them so that they can feel sorrowful and repent, knowing that, damn, we've gone astray from our power. And now look at the state that we're in. They'd rather not do that. Verse 11, and of whom hast thou been afraid or feared that thou hast lied? Right. So the Lord's like, well, who are you so afraid of that has made you lie to me? Right. And has not remembered me, nor laid it to thy heart. Right. So you basically gone so far off that you've forgotten the Lord. You've forgotten the things that he did for you. You've forgotten that he's the one who brought you out of captivity, that provides for you, that's been, all the times we've been delivered, that's the Lord. So he's saying, who is it that's made you so afraid that you're telling, you're lying to the Lord, you're turning your back to the Lord, you've forgotten the Lord. Have not I held my peace even of old, and thou fearest me not? And translated in a more modern way, this is basically saying, is it because I've held my peace for so long that now you don't fear me anymore? It's like the saying, what is it? Familiarity. Let me see. Familiarity breeds contempt. It says here, extensive knowledge or close association with someone or something leads to a lack of respect for them or it. But there's a variation where when it's been so long, somebody needs to remind you basically of who they are, right? Because for so long they've been so chill that you got beside yourself, forgetting what who this person really is, right? So you have this one where it's like you get so close to them that you become too familiar, and then you get stupid. And then there's the one where they just they're not always, let's say, rah. Okay, so you get to the point where you forget who it is you're dealing with. And that's what the Lord is saying. It's like, I've basically held my peace for so long, you started to not fear me anymore, right? Like the precept that mentions in the Ecclesiastes 8 and 11, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, the heart of men is fully set in them to do evil, right? So for so long, the penalty of breaking the laws of the Lord haven't been exacted. And so people have become comfortable doing that. And for so long, the Lord, held his peace that Jake became more and more comfortable waxing worse and not fearing the Lord. Verse 12, I will declare thy righteousness and thy works. And the Lord here is when he says righteousness here, he's saying like, I'm going to expose your so-called righteousness, right? Your pseudo righteousness and your works, for for they shall not profit thee. When thou criest, let thy companies deliver thee. Right. So when you're in trouble and you're crying out for help, let your groups, your idol worshippers and your idols that you serve, let them come in and deliver you from your troubles, from famine, from enemies. But the wind shall carry them all away. Vanity shall take them. Right. Because in other words, they're light. They're lightweight. They're weak. They're so weak, that Lord can send a wind by and then boom, they're gone. Vanity here, when you go into that word here, it goes into like a breath or vapor. So like they're basically practically nothing. They can easily be just knocked over with just a simple breath, obviously from the perspective of the Lord. But he that putteth his trust in me shall possess the land and shall inherit mine holy mountain. Right. But those that trust the Lord, that don't go astray, that don't go whoring after other gods, he's going to establish them. And they're going to get to keep the land that was promised to their forefathers, right? As it says, and inherit my holy mountain. And shall say, cast ye up, prepare the way, take up the stumbling block out of the way of my people, right? So for those that do that which is pleasing unto the Lord, a way would be prepared for them, right? So the cast ye up is like, them saying like, yo, get the stones out the way, clear out the way, make the way smooth, for the people of the Lord. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, it's the Most High, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit. See, and that's the stead of the elect. Okay, they're the ones that come to the Lord in a contrite, right? A broken and humble spirit. Why? Because they know and acknowledge that they are not perfect and that they need the Lord. Not being proud and headstrong in wickedness. To revive this, so the Lord says, those are the ones that I dwell with. So that I may revive, right? To revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite one. So the Lord is like, I'm going to heal them. Okay, and give them, life again. For I will not contend forever. And when you contend, you strive with, or you go against, or you fight against. Neither will I be always wroth. So it was like, my anger is not going to dwell forever, and I'm not going to always be angry, fighting with you. For the spirit should fail before me, and the souls which I have made. Meaning, if I was to be angry forever, right, or just continue to contend with you, you would all die. Okay, like no spirit would be able to make it, all right, and no soul would survive. There's another precept that mentions if the Most High was to count iniquity, who shall stand? Verse 17, for the iniquity of his covetousness was I wroth. And this is referring to the his and the him, and the he is referring to the nation of Israel. Right. So for the iniquity of their covetousness, their greed, which led them to go a whoring after these other gods and to get enticed by the ways of the heathen, the Lord was angry. The word wrath meaning angry. And smote him. And how did the Lord smite us? With plagues, famines, a pestilence, captivity. I hid me, so the Lord hid himself, and was wroth. And what did that look like? Well, when the enemy would come against us and we would call upon the Lord, nothing would happen. No deliverance would happen. We would just be at the mercy of our enemies. That's when the Lord hid himself. When you hide yourself, it's like, somebody can't find you, right? So when in our time of need, when we searched for the Lord, we couldn't find him because he was angry at us. And he went on frowardly in the way of his heart. See, so the Lord was like, I hid myself and I was wroth. And they just continued on, frowardly, stubbornly, hard-headedly in the way of their own heart. Whatever they thought, was right, or whatever they wanted to do, they continued to do it. Hence, this is the state of Israel today. I have seen his ways, and I will heal him. Right? So at the end of the day, when all is said and done, that's why the Lord said he wouldn't always be wroth. Right? So he would eventually look back upon his people and heal us. I will lead him also and restore comforts unto him and to his mourners. And who are the mourners of the nation of Israel? The elect. They are the ones that are sighing and crying. They are the ones that are mourning and seeking the Lord. So it's really for their sake that the Lord is gonna heal the nation, because the rest of the nation will be healed through them. But as he says, I will lead him also. So no longer will we be going in the ways of idolatry and just a bunch of various different philosophies that Jake are into. The Lord will lead us down the right path and restore comforts unto us, right? Which comes with joy, no more pain, no more suffering. That's in Revelation, the 21st chapter. Verse 19, I create the fruit of the lips. Now, what are the fruit of the lips? Words. Okay, so the Lord has said he's going to create words really of peace. Peace to him that is afar off and to him that is near. These are Israelites, okay, both scattered far, wherever they may be, or near, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will heal him. But the wicked are like the troubled sea. See, so these are for those that trust in the Lord. But the wicked, as it says here, are like the troubled sea, which when it cannot rest. So a sea that is always, raging, that is never really still, whose waters cast up mire and dirt, right? Because typically, right, when the sea is still, the dirt and everything, it's still there, but it's settled at the bottom. But when it's constantly raging, it mixes all that up and then it becomes dirty. Okay. Verse 21. So that's what the wicked are likened unto. There is no peace, saith my God, to the wicked. Okay. And the world is about to see that in full effect and understand why it is that you don't want to be associated with that wicked when the Lord brings that judgment. So that brings us to the end of the book of Isaiah, the 57th chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kudash. And till next time, Shalom.